Thank you for tuning in to the Nola Ro Experience Podcast. Raw, honest, relatable conversations that help us grow. Be sure to follow us on all social platforms at the Nola Ro Experience Podcast and watch and listen to your favorite TNREP episodes on your favorite podcast platform.
On today's episode, why did it take me so long to come back to this podcast? Did you know? I have a question, the SOA Q&A, and of course, today's happy habit. So, I am insanely excited to be back. But as much as I love and adore this podcast, as much as I love and adore you all, I definitely had to take a break because, baby, life was lifing. It truly was. So, why did it take me so long to come back to this podcast? Why would it take me so long to come back to this thing that I love and adore so much? Okay, so about 18 months ago or so, roughly, give or take, a business proposal came to me. And the business proposal was to go into a partnership with someone to open a bar and lounge in Brooklyn. My very first intuitive answer was no. I felt it in my body. And I also knew that I did not want to get back into nightlife. I had spent many years in nightlife. I already knew all the things that came with it, right? The late nights, the having to work until 4, 5, 6 a.m., but still having to be up in the daytime to get daytime things done, to be a mother, to be in a relationship, and to take care of my family. I knew that that wasn't the life that I wanted. I made that decision a long time ago. So when this business proposal came, I was like, immediately. My body felt it. My energy was against it, but I didn't answer right away. I said, you know what? Let me think about it. I went off and consulted with some people and just discussed it. And I was eventually convinced to do it. Now, I thought, you know what? Yeah, this is a smart thing to do. This is a great opportunity. So many amazing things can come out of this. Let me do it. My plan at that time was to spend 2 years in the business. I was like, I can make this sacrifice and do this for 2 years. I'll be in operations, build it up, make something magnificent out of it. And after those 2 years, I am going to ease myself out of the business and have it run by a really amazing manager and go into business consulting. So I wanted to live a life where I can wake up in the morning and make breakfast, and I can cook dinner for my family, and I can see the sun coming up, and I can be outdoors and go to the park or go to the gym and just do whatever I want to do with ease and joy and some real soft queen shit, right? So I had been thinking about that for years. And I was like, all right, I will go into this business for 2 years and then get into my princess queen era. So I made the decision, but my agreement with the person who came to me with the proposal was, I will only do this, because at the time they couldn't do it at all. They didn't have the resources, they couldn't pull it off. And it was a lot. It was a huge undertaking. So I said to them, I will do this, but I will only do it under one condition. And that condition is, I would have to be sole owner. It will not be a partnership. I will take over, but I will make sure that I take care of you. Whether it's definitely going to be through compensation and other perks, right? That was the agreement. They agreed to that. The business is mine. I put all my money into it. A lot of sacrifices were made to make this business real. And I knew I couldn't do the podcast while I was doing that. This needed to be full focus, super locked in, and then the time span as well. I had a short amount of time to do it. So I went ahead, did renovations, did the branding, hired the staff, all the things. Whatever was needed for this business, I conceptualized it, I created it, I did it, right? I was like, okay, this business is going to be launched. The launch date kept getting pushed. And eventually I was like, you know what? I'll do it on my birthday, May 17th. So I ended up launching the business on May 17th with a lot of community support, family support, friend support, a lot of amazing traction came up before the opening. So the anticipation was out of this world. The day of the opening, it was beautiful. It was phenomenal. Okay. Waterfall Lounge was launched, and I had become a new business owner. This was my very first brick and mortar. This is my first storefront, right? So things are happening. We're flowing. Business is going. It's a beautiful place. The community is impressed. People really want to be involved. I launched community initiatives to support the community because I didn't want to just be a business person. I didn't want to just sell. I also wanted to give back. I also wanted to make sure that I was supporting the community in other ways. Eventually, the person who I made this agreement with, they fell back and went back on that agreement. They started doing things within the business that was creating sabotage. It was creating a super toxic environment. And after about 6 months or so, I started to become physically sick, literally physically sick. My mental health was suffering. I was running around trying to make all these things happen. And I knew that the only way that I could get this person to stop doing what they were doing, was to take legal action. I could have done that. But because of my relationship with them, I decided that I did not want to go that route. But it was tumultuous. It was crazy. It was nuts. But what really happened there wasn't just a betrayal by this person for going back on our original agreement. It wasn't just a betrayal coming from them. It was me betraying myself. This was 100% the product of what happens when you don't go with your first voice, when you don't go with your intuition, when you ignore what your body told, like my body told me no immediately. And like many other times, I ignored myself. I ignored my intuition. And intuition, what is it really? It's really wisdom. It's divine wisdom. Divine wisdom. We get wisdom from the heart, which is downloads from the universe. That's the truth. We also get wisdom, what we think is wisdom, a form of intelligence, or you're smart, from the head, which is typically man-made. And I went with my head as usual. That's me. I'll go inside my head and create chaos for myself. And when you make decisions that are out of alignment with your divine wisdom, with your divine intelligence, you always create chaos. You always create suffering when you go against what you know to be true. And that's exactly what I did. I could have said, this person did this person did that. Oh my gosh, the universe did this. Oh my gosh, life is doing this. Oh my gosh, it's this, is that. I could have pointed the finger to every other direction but myself. I could have done that. But I feel like when you point the finger at other people, when you point the finger at things, when you point the finger at circumstances, and you do not take accountability and you do not take responsibility for your part in your suffering, you end up losing the gem of the lesson, and you end up increasing the chances of repeating it again. I know for me, if I tell myself, listen, I am not cool with what I did there. I screwed up. I did something that put my life in the trenches. If I say that to myself and I mean it, and I actually sit in that, I feel highly compelled to never repeat that again. That's the beautiful thing about accountability and responsibility. This wasn't a time for me to step into what I needed to step into. And I knew what I wanted. I said I wanted to live with ease. I wanted joy. I wanted peace. But what I've ended up learning is, in order for you to live in joy, you have to be joyful. In order for you to live in peace, you have to be peaceful. In order for you to live with ease, you have to be ease. You have to become all the things that you want in life. Whatever it is that you want, you have to become it. And that's what I didn't know. I heard it, but I guess I truly didn't understand it. We hear it all the time. Be the change you wish to see in the world. I know you've heard that. I've heard that. But you don't truly understand it until you have to live it, until you have to walk it. And I had to become the woman that I said I wanted to be. And the reason why I ended up experiencing the betrayal and the suffering is because I kept talking about things that I wanted, but I wasn't the person ready to handle all of that. I wasn't the person who could take on the things that I said that I wanted. And you might be saying that you want this, you want that, you might have aspirations and dreams, but then you just never achieve it. Or it takes you a really long time to get there, or it just seems like it's running away from you. And that's probably because you're not being what it is that you say you want. You're not being the person that can grab all of that and hold on to it and maintain it and manifest it and make it yours. That's the thing. You can talk about it all day, but if you're not that girl, if you're not that guy, it's not going to be yours. And I couldn't live a life of ease because I kept choosing pressure over peace. I kept doing that consciously. My eyes were wide open and I was choosing, resisting how I needed to be. So I went into a really, really dark place. I became super depressed. I went through a depression and had a moment, not a large moment. This was a huge chunk of time that I spent not really wanting to interact with people, not really wanting to engage, because when I'm in my funky mode, like when my energy is funky and I'm not feeling my best, I don't feel comfortable bringing that around other people. You know what I mean? A few people will know, and if we talk, I'll tell you straight up, like this is what's happening. And I've even experienced telling this to people and realizing that they're really uncomfortable with this information. Like, I'm feeling really depressed right now, and they're like, "Oh wow, like, oh, this is awkward." But it was my truth. That's what was happening. And I truly miss this podcast. I truly love doing this podcast because, as I've said many, many times before, it's very therapeutic. This is my realm. I love interacting with everybody who taps into this podcast and supports it. But I was doing something major, right? I signed up for a successful business and I ended up learning a tremendous lesson. A wise woman said to me, talking with her, and she was actually coaching me through something completely separate. But what was happening in the business was severely impacting what I was doing in that coaching program. And she said to me, "You are going through a spiritual initiation." And I was like, spiritual initiation? It sounds scary. It sounds like unlike anything I've heard before. And it almost sounded like it didn't belong to me. Like, what does this mean? It had this negative connotation that came with it. But really what she meant, and really what the truth was I said I wanted to be a certain type of woman. And my body and my spirit was calling for expansion. I knew I needed to expand. I knew it was time to grow. I knew it was time to evolve. I could feel it. And a lot of us walk around with that. And you don't know that's what it is. You feel like you deserve more. You feel like this space is too small for you and you need to expand and be in a bigger space. You feel like you want to do more in the world, but you probably don't have the words for it. You probably don't understand what that feeling is, but and you end up staying stuck in the yearning, and that yearning eventually over time becomes suffering. And that can be anxiety, that can be depression, that can be a whole host of mental health issues, because your spirit knows that you deserve to expand. And I had been feeling that for a while. I need to expand. I want more. This space is it's like needing to shed, right? And the spiritual initiation meant I'm asking for something. I'm asking to be somewhere. I'm asking to be a certain person. And I need to shed the old ways of being. And that was not coming easy. Choosing to run a business when my first voice said no, it meant that I needed to go through something so that I could never make decisions from that space again. Having the interaction that I had with the person who brought this business proposal to me, the fact that it was so toxic and heavy and dark and painful and crazy, it really meant that I was playing myself. And playing myself meant that I kept choosing to be a certain way, knowing that my spirit was screaming, my soul was screaming for expansion. And when your soul is screaming, your life starts becoming chaotic and your body starts to become sick. You start to create disease in your body. I was having issues sleeping. I had an an elevated amount of cortisol in my body. I was highly stressed. And at the time, I was partially taking responsibility, but definitely doing a lot of finger pointing. Definitely pointing the finger a whole lot. But the spiritual initiation meant you can't be that person anymore. You can't make decisions coming from that place anymore. You can't do it. There's no way you can be in that mindset. There's no way you can be in that spiritual space. And there's no way you can continue to embody what you're embodying and get to where you want to go. It's just not possible. It's not possible. And let me tell you, the suffering, the beating myself up, the negative self-talk, the darkness, the depression, constantly anxious, cranky, my soul screaming to get out of this space so that my body can actually survive this. There was a moment when I knew, it dawned on me, it was clear as day. I knew if I continue on this trajectory, I'm not going to make it. I knew that. And had I continued to embody that girl, I would have caused my own demise. Quick, fast. I was speeding towards hurting myself, speeding towards killing myself. It was too much stress. It was too much suffering. It was too much. And taking responsibility was the first step towards figuring out what to do. I needed to start embodying the woman that I wanted to be. How do I release the chaos? How do I release being depressed? How do I release being anxious? How do I release repeating these decisions? Lying down in my bed for days and days at a time, especially during the holidays when things are it's such a festive time. Everybody's joyful. These beautiful things are happening. And I just didn't want to be around anybody. Family is so important to me, and being with family is so important to me. And when I had no urge to do that, when I had no urge to interact and be joyful and eat the food, eat the food and have a good time, eat, drink, and be merry. When I had no urge, no feelings, no yearning, no wanting to do any of that, I knew it was time. I knew it was time. And that spiritual initiation, I stepped into it. I surrendered. I submitted. And I knew it was time. So really and truly, life wasn't hurting me. Life was not punishing me. I was simply living the consequences of my decision. Am I there? Hell no. I am no longer there. I am in such a great place right now. I feel so much at ease. I am embodying that woman that I've been dreaming about forever. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I did that, how I was able to get to this place in part 2. Make sure y'all come back to part 2 so we can talk about how I lifted the veil, came out of depression, released that anxious energy, and started embodying and being peace and being joy and being ease. Okay, so did you know? All right. Did you know that 75% of entrepreneurs cite personal stress as the top reason they shut down or pivot their businesses? Not market conditions, not competition, personal stress. Did you know? Okay, I have a question. And I would like everybody listening to this podcast right now to contemplate this question and answer it. Either answer it when you watch on YouTube. You can leave a comment. You can leave a comment on the podcast streaming platform that you're tapped into, whether it's Spotify or Apple, or leave it on Instagram, leave it on Facebook, leave it on the socials, DM me, email me, talkwithnola@gmail. Talkwithnola@gmail. Okay. The question is, what is something that you have built in silence while you were secretly falling apart? Or it could be something that you were building in public, but you were secretly falling apart. What is something that you have built while you were secretly falling apart? All right. Are we ready for the SOA Q&A? Yes. So the SOA Q&A, my producer, Shot of Adrenaline, will ask me questions, introspective questions that I have to answer. Let's go. What skill or talent do I wish people knew I had? What skill or talent do I wish? I typically like to go with the first answer that comes to my mind, and it's always hilarious that sometimes the first answer that comes to my mind, I can't say it on this podcast. I can't say it on the podcast. What do I wish? I am funny in my everyday life, like a lot of humor, just silliness, goofiness. But I think that a lot of people who tune in, they know this, but then a lot of people don't. But tell me, have you picked up on that? Did you know that I'm goofy, silly, always cackling for the wrong reasons, laughing at stupid stuff? But definitely that. Yep. In what moments do I feel the most sexy? I feel the most sexy when I am moving with ease, when things are in flow, and definitely when I have expanded beyond what I thought I could. And it doesn't even have to look sexy. I could just be feeling that, just feeling myself in that moment and feeling sexy in that moment. If I could witness one historical event firsthand, what would it be? This is another one that I'm not going to say because it's very traumatic. I don't know that it's one specific event, but I would love to see the moments when, the exact moment when Africans started to become disconnected with who, what, and where they were. I always contemplated, what did that actually look like in real time in Africa? The first moment when the colonizers came in and the first African person said, well, you know what, I'm going to betray my people. What did that look like? I would love to also be in Kemet. I would love to see what life actually looked like back then. Okay, so for today's happy habit, when I make decisions now, I'm very quick with decisions. I'm not indecisive at all. And sometimes I think it throws people off because I make decisions so quickly. It might seem like, are you sure? I'm positive. But within that quickness, I still check in with myself to make sure that I'm not making decisions based on fear. It does come up. And once I realize, oh, this is happening in a fearful way, I kind of slow down and step back just to make sure that I'm making decisions through faith and facts and using my first voice. That's it. It brings me a lot of joy. No regrets. Super happy and joyful that you all were able to tap into this episode. I am grateful to be back. I am ecstatic to engage with you all again, and make sure you tap in for part 2 when we continue with the story. But for now, bye y'all. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Nola Ro Experience Podcast. Created and hosted by Nola Ro. Produced by Take Action Media. Theme song by Mr. Melee. Sponsored by The Hills Restaurant, Brooklyn, New York. Listen to us on all podcast platforms and follow us on social media at the Nola Ro Experience Podcast. Visit the Nola Ro Experience Podcast.com and connect with us via email at talkwithnola@gmail.com.